Hello, my health freedom loving friends. Misty Carlfeld here with Health Freedom Idaho, and I'm here with Sarah and Chelsea. And today, on Independence Day, we thought we would read the Declaration of Independence. We've been practicing over here, so give us a little love if we mess up on some of these words.
They have not been used for a very long time.
We love you, Thomas Jefferson, and
We're
your
going to do
huge
our
brain.
best. Okay, the Declaration of Independence. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. So has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of this present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them, and he has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
That resonates with us.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
Wow.
Sounds like District Health.
Yeah.
One.
It really does.
Right, or all the committees that he's put
All
together.
the committees.
Right.
Yeah, and he's put a legislator on each one of the committees, but they're new committees and they're not elected officials, so they don't really answer to the people.
Right. And how does every district have a voice if there's just one legislator from one district on some committee put together by the governor?
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
King fits the title for this in present
It really
day.
does.
It really does.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures.
That reminds me of when the legislators said that they were deemed, what was the word?
Unessential.
Unessential.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, we feel that he's deemed us unessential. And I got goosebumps and tears in my eyes because
I
they
have them right
are
now.
the representative of the people. So that essentially renders the people unessential because we don't have a voice. If our elected voices don't have a voice for us.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, still have
I know, me
goosebumps.
too. Our goosebumps are rubbing on each other.
All right. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
Boom. That one hits right in the center of the target. That's exactly what King Little has done to
Wow.
us.
You see why we call him King Little. He's
Yeah.
acting as king.
As
he
a
has,
tyrant king.
Yes. He's appointed himself king.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. There's a lot of things being imposed on us without our consent.
For sure.
For depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries, so as to render it once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into the colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, child protective,
I know, I thought about that too, about the trial by jury.
right?
You know, because these parents have their children taken and they don't have a trial by jury. They have a trial with a judge who's beholden to the department, and so it's not a trial by jury. We've already lost this right here in family court.
And the department who's beholden to the Governor King.
Exactly.
Yeah, we literally have this exact situation.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to read that one more time because that one even goes on just a bit further. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
Absolutely.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us all cases, for in all cases whatsoever.
Wow.
That sounds just like our martial law statutes that he's trying to use against
Yeah,
us.
it does.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. I don't know about you guys, but I think a lot of our small businesses are hurting right now and destroying their lives.
For sure.
He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and terrified, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, save that one, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
Ugh. That hits home.
He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sex, and conditions.
It's amazing how close we are to this list.
Right.
And when will the people rise up, I wonder.
There's so many things on this list that describe almost exactly what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Unfit to be a ruler of the free people.
Amen. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that, as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I almost couldn't get through that.
I was tearing up too.
And I was remembering when we were in DC and I got to see the Declaration for the first time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It really hits home. It reminds me what this day is all about.
I'm really hoping that our legislature will be as brave and come together and end the state of emergency. We must work hard to defend our independence. This year, I'm not really celebrating our independence. I don't feel independent.
Or free, or have
Or
liberty.
free, or have liberty that was so hardly fought for us and is, in fact, our heritage
Yeah.
and our birthright.
Yeah.
Instead, today is a reminder to me of how hard we have to work to get our independence, our freedom, and our liberty back for ourselves and our children. Mm-hmm. Anything else to add?
I mean, I just want to reiterate.
That was emotional.
It is. It's.
That's a living, emotional, beautiful,
I know.
well thought out.
And I want
document.
people to remember this is what today is about, and not barbecuing and fireworks. And I mean,
Yes.
and I think that people forget that when they said these words, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They were taking on the most powerful military in the world at that time, and they literally would have been, if they had lost, and this had not worked, and we had lost the revolution, they would have watched their children and their families be murdered. They would have been hung in the streets. Everything that they ever did and worked for would be destroyed, and they would have been killed. And I just think, here we are arguing about masks and this and that and the other and these little things. We owe it to our founders and to ourselves and to our children and to the future of our state and our country to fight for freedom and to remember what they went through and sacrificed, and we need to be willing to do the same.
I am willing to do the same.
Me too.
For my children and for yours.
Yep, 100%.
We
Absolutely.
need the power back with the people.
Yes. Where it belongs, it comes
Right.
from God to us, the people.
Yes. We've allowed our elected officials to forget where they derive their power from.
That is right, from the consent of the
The
governed.
consent of the governed. I don't consent.
I do not consent to what's happening.
No, I don't either.
Anything else to add, friend?
I don't think so.
Well, we hope you have a wonderful Independence Day, and I hope this serves as a reminder to you what we are working so hard for. So let's work hard. Let's get our freedom back, our liberty, and that way we can celebrate and rejoice next year.
Sure, I sure hope so.
Blessings to you.